All right. Okay, good. Can we allow attendees to unmute when needed? Yes, 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 Yogesh, we can. We will allow attendees to unmute whenever it is required. So welcome to all to this interesting DigiByte session from Skill Technica, where we focus on giving knowledge or you spend about 90 minutes to learn a new skill. So we're doing this DigiByte on a very regular basis every week, mostly on a Saturdays. So this week we are very, very happy to have you as a part of this DigiByte session. And while we see that there are a lot more participants who are getting added, I would would like to hand over the session to Sumi, who is the head of operations of Skill Technica, to take it further. And then, so we stand committed to you, Skill Technica, in clarifying any of the doubts or hand-holding you, even post-session, just in case you need some of the support. This is signing off from you, Bala, from Skill Technica. See you. Thank you. Over to you, Sumi.
Good morning, all of you. Good morning, all of you. Welcome to this wonderful session. Yes, DigiByte is just like you are snacking something in between your busy schedule. So it will be a quick bite where you will be learning a particular topic in the particular technology. Considering today's session, it is going to be the evaluation of machine learning model. So it is related to artificial intelligence also and data science also, because machine learning is a part of both the technologies. Today, our trainer, Mr. Yogesh, who is having a wide range of experience in industry as well as in training, he will be teaching you how to evaluate a machine learning model. What is the insights for that? What is the methods you have to follow? What is the technology related to that? Everything will be briefly given in this 90 minutes. Yes, it's going to be a quick bite for you. Hope this session is going to be useful. And at the end of the session, you can clarify your doubts, and we are here to guide you. Yogesh will take upon the questions. And with this, I would like to invite Mr. Yogesh to take over the session. Please, sir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sumi, for this opportunity. Good morning, everybody. I hope I am audible to everybody, and hope the session would be some use for you guys, and you guys could grab out of this. I would like to have a session with some dialogue discussions so that it should be more interactive ones. I can request the team so that you guys can unmute in between also if you feel there is some doubt, because the technology might be new to you. So at any point of time, you might feel the things are going above our head or something is going beyond the thing. So we need to chat in between, then we can do that also. So I would love to have that thing. So guys, shall we start with the session? Can I have a quick yes by you guys from you in the chat? Just to see how active you are so that I can make my pace accordingly. Yep, I got a yes. Yes, good. Means I am able to communicate. That's something which is wonderful. So now let us start with the session. It's evaluating the machine learning models. So just another quick one. How many of you are aware about machine learning and what it is? Any idea? You guys can unmute also if you feel comfortable with in talking as compared to chatting, then you can unmute also. So basically, we are doing this under data science. Data science is the whole, you can say, umbrella under which all these things are covered. Data science combines multiple fields, including statistics, mathematics, artificial intelligence, data analysis. So all these things are covered under data, in which we are basically doing some processes, some research over the data, and then we are finding out some trends, some insights over it. So data science reveals some trends which are very useful for the businesses, which are useful for, you can say, their strategic decisions, whatever they want to take in their business. So now data science is getting more and more popular day by day, and we are moving towards machine learning also, which is also a relevant subset with data science. So machine learning is basically making up the models on the basis of vast data available to us, and on the basis of that, machine tries to give us some decisions. Machine tries to give us some information. Means if suppose you want to say, okay, you work in a company where you are producing, suppose, air conditioners. So you want to see how much numbers we should produce this month or this season, and would we able to sell all those numbers? Suppose you are very much optimist and you want to sell 1 lakh units of your air condition, whatever you are having. So you need to have an idea, okay, what is your past selling trend patterns were there. So on the basis of that, usually analysts used to give you that information, but now machines are doing that. So how machine do that? When we'll go bit by bit, we'll move bit by bit, means we'll understand how machine works, how machine learning works, and then we move to the models. So I think this would be the right way. So can I have a quick yes from you guys? Yeah, thank you. So now, at any point, if you feel you need to ask something, you can raise your hand, or you can simply unmute and you can simply say, okay, sir, I want to ask. So now this is the whole, you can say, process under which a machine works. It basically takes the raw data. Raw data is the information which has been accumulated over the years by the company. Like suppose you were about to sell some air conditioners. So whatever you have sold in past 10 years or 15 years or whatever time it has been, so that whole data is present here, and that data is fed to the machine. Machine does its own interpretation, its own understanding by whatever it is getting into, whatever patterns it is making some algo, it is making some process. And on the basis of that, it gives you an output. So it is a sort of a black box, how machine does it all. It's not like you are going and you are giving machine the information and you are asking it to do what you want to. Like in conventional programming, you used to do. Suppose you want to make a program for a table of truth, and you have to guide the computer to multiply 2 every time with the numbers from 1 to 9, and then you'll get a table. So it's not like that. Here, machine is independent. It is taking in the data, it is doing its own pattern identification, it's doing its own analysis, and then it is giving the results. So basically, why we use data science or machine learning, there are the 3 major, you can say, milestones which you need to achieve, or 3 major objectives are there. One is to make better decision making. You should be able to understand, you should be able to make a good decision out of it. Like if you say, okay, I want to produce 1 lakh air conditioners. So should I go with 1 lakh, or should I reduce the number to 80,000, which is my normal conventional numbers? So that is the decision, whether I should go with A or I should go with B. Second is the predictive analysis. Okay, what will happen next? Okay, suppose I am producing 1 lakh ACs, 1 lakh units. Would I be able to sell them? What would be the selling point, and what would be the benefits? Would be the after effects? Are they will they be lying in my inventory, or would I be able to sell them? That comes under predictive analysis. Okay, what sort of sales you will be getting. Third is the pattern discovery. Pattern discovery is something which is any sort of hidden pattern which is lying there, which normally is not noted by our eyes. Like you are having sales data for like last 10 years, and you don't know what is the pattern going on. So machine will take into the data, it will try to identify the patterns, it will try to relate those patterns, and it might tell you like guys who are in their 20s are the most you can say active customers for your company. Or a machine could tell you like the guys who are above 50, they are very skeptical in purchasing something, so they are not very good customers, so you can neglect that. So if suppose you are running some campaigns for elderly group people, then you can skip that part. So that comes when you know what is the pattern going on there. So that comes under pattern discovery basically. So am I making sense as of now, guys? Are you guys getting it? Again, a quick yes would do. It keeps you active. Basically, it's, yeah, so far. Okay. Thank you. So these are the, you can say, major areas where we use machine learning or we use data science analysis, how the things are going. You need to do some sales analytics. You need to understand what would be the demand, what would be the upselling would be there. What should I do in terms of identifying what would be the demand there, or you can say what could be the risk associated with whatever I am doing. Would my material would be lying in inventory, or it would be sold somewhere, or would I face some sort of competitions or not? It also includes your operational behaviors, whatever you are doing, like in your company, how things are moving, how you communicate between each others, how you can say the feedbacks are coming to you, how your customers are behaving for your products. So everything is kept into account, and on the basis of that, machines try to give you the real picture of your business. Machines even try to understand the customer's review, and on the basis of that, they even try to predict what would be your sale or what should be your sale for this year, as considering the last year's performance. So all these pictures, all these analyses are done by machines using different machine learning models. So all these things are very crucial for any company, and because nowadays data is available, it's huge. So we can't skip that part. We can't skip that, you can say, suggestions which is coming from the machine. So there are a few very, you can say, high value industries which can't skip that suggestion, which can't overlook the machine suggestions. Otherwise, you could. If you are having a small grocery store, then you could even anytime skip any suggestion given by your friend or anybody. But if you are running a business that is very crucial and every percentage matters to you, then you can't skip whatever is coming to you. You need to be very much sure about whatever you are just discarding, it's really of no use. So these are the industries which are having very, you can say, crucial information, like automotive, banking, life sciences, which are doing, like you can see the guys who are working for these Covaxin and these vaccines for COVID and all these things, who are making medicines. So these guys can't skip any of the, you can say, noted pattern, or you can say effect of the vaccine which is coming out. So these are the industries: retail, government, telcos, oil and gas, insurance, travel. All these industries are very, you can say, high value industries. So these industries depends on data. They take data into their account. They do some machine learning to avoid the risk, so that they can reduce their cost, and even they can get some more revenues. So these are very crucial industries which are working on this, which are, you can say, the prime customer for data science and machine learning. So these industries do, you can say, have an inclination over these algorithms. So now we have talked about who are using these machine learning algorithms, why machine learning algorithms are used in the industry. Now we'll see what actually are machine learning algorithms. What are they? How they work? So what is machine learning? Machine learning is a concept which allows a machine to learn from examples and experiences, and that too without being explicitly programmed. That is the beauty, basically. If you are asking a machine to do some prediction, to give some insights, and you are not training it to do. Normally, if you see any machines around you, you give it a command and it follows. Like, you want to see something on a TV, you need to switch it on first by the remote. And then if suppose you want to see some particular channel, then you have to type that thing on the remote, and then TV redirects you there. It's not like you switched on the TV and automatically it understands your pattern and changes the channel accordingly. Like it should know you just see news for 10 minutes. After that, you switch to, you can say, some comedy serial or something, real life reality show. And while you want to sleep, before that, you always watch a good movie. So it does not change automatically. It has to be done by you, because machines are like dumb slaves. They follow whatever you are doing. But here the game is different. You are using same machines, but now these machines are not being explicitly programmed. means you are not asking them to do something, but they are doing it by their own. So they learn in the same way as a child does. You can relate this case to a small child in your home, or if you can remember your own childhood days, you can see that nobody has programmed you for anything. Nobody has programmed you how to speak in your mother tongue, or what to say to what. You just listen to your elders, or the child just listens to their elder, how they are speaking. They are asking, oh, this is the pillow, oh, this is the car, this is the bed. So the child only notes it, and in his mind he just make a directory, a sort of, you can say, dictionary, in which he adds the words as he grabs them. So sooner or later he will have you can say full corpus available, and he is able to make the sentences, frame the sentences. Same case happens with machines also. What they does, they just gulp in the data which you are giving to them. So what you are doing, you are putting the data. Suppose you want a machine to do some prediction for, you can say, the sales of your air condition. So what you will do, you will feed the data for last year. It will grab it and try to find out some solutions. Then you feed more data, more data. As more and more data you are providing to the machine, it is getting more and more intelligent, because now its vocabulary is increasing. Now it has a lot of data points to understand. Now it can get a proper relationship. So instead of writing your own code, it's easy for them. Just pass on the data and let the machine do everything. So machine works in the same way. It enables the computer to make data-driven decisions. So now machine can take decisions on your behalf. Means if you want some replacement, then you can do that. Suppose you have very good managers, sales managers are there, sales analysts are there. So instead of hiring those guys, you can rely on an algorithm also, which can tell you, yes, this thing can be done or this cannot. You can relate this thing to your banks. If you go to a bank and you ask, hey, I want to take a loan, what they do, they take your credentials, they take your information, they fill all the information into a portal basically. And that portal tells them that this guy is, you can say, risky. So you should not give him some loan or something like that. So basically what they do, our system is not allowing you to give the loan because you are a risky shot for us. So how it is working? Basically, banks are feeding information of all the clients to the machine, to their own machine. And that machine is realizing, on the basis of 10 lakh customers from this bank, I can analyze the guys who are from a particular region, or the guys who are from this particular age, and if they are having only this much of salary bandwidth, then these guys could make a fraud. Fraud can be anything, means they could not be able to repay the loan. That is also considered under the ineligibility. So by these factors, by these terms, machine try to identify a pattern, which all those guys would be, who would be a risky shot if we give a loan to them. So that is how that works, and that gives you an idea, these guys are the risky shot and we should go with them or not. So here, machine is not programmed to do anything. It is just fed, the data is fed to machine, and now machine is doing its own analysis, and on the basis of that, it is giving you the output. Yes, this can be done, or this could not be done. This guy could be allowed, or this guy could not be allowed. So all these programs are designed in a way that if you try to enter more data, then these programs gets more and more, you can say, explicit. They get more and more accurate. So basically, by adding the data, you get it more accurate. So let us understand how machine works with this example. This is basically the machine learning rule. The above one is the classical programming rule, which is normally follows and which we all see. Suppose you want to do subtraction of two numbers. So basically what you have to do, you need two numbers basically. First, then there is a rule, just subtract one from the other and you get the answer. That is the classical programming. That means you enter the rule, how subtraction is done, you enter the numbers, and on the basis of that, you get an answer. That is the classical way of programming, which you normally see, or you have normally seen around you. Now this one is how machine works. What it takes the data, means it will take those two numbers, it will take the answer also. So what will happen, like suppose this is the case with you, you give two numbers, one is 10 and another is 8. You enter these two numbers, and if the answer is 2, then for machine, otherwise, if you are doing it on any conventional system, what you will do, you will make a program to understand it, how subtraction is done. You will enter number A, you will enter number B. But in case of machine learning, what you will do, you will simply give it the final answer. Okay, final answer is 2. Next time the final answer is 4. Next time the final answer is 6, suppose. And here are the two numbers. One was 10, another was 8. For next time, it was 12 and another was 8. For the third time, it was again 12 and another was 6. This is how. So you feed this data, these two numbers along with the answer, you feed into the machine, and machine identifies what is happening basically. What is happening to these two numbers? Why it is giving me answer as 2? Why it is giving me answer as 4? So then it will understand, oh, this is something different, and that means subtraction is going on. That is how it understands. That is how it learns. And that is how it will make its own rules. So that is how machine makes its own rules. Sometimes rules are so different that they can't be explained to you. That is why sometimes we say that machines are doing something which is called as black box. Got it? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's move forward now. This is how, this is one more, you can say, illustration to understand. A human says, I can learn everything automatically from the experiences. Can you learn? So machine says, yes, I can also learn from the past data with help of machine learning. So earlier it was not possible, but now it is. Now machine learning has given that advantage that machines can understand everything without even being programmed. We need not to enter the code. Otherwise, to make a machine very smart, it would take a huge amount of memory and a huge amount of information that has to be fed into machine. And then it would be so difficult for that machine to relate to what you are asking and how you are asking. So to make it easy, machine learning is done. So this is one more illustration to understand how it works. Suppose you enter the raw data. These are apples. You know these are apples, but machine doesn't know these are apples. The apples are fed to the machine. What it takes, it does some algorithm, does some processing. On the basis of that, it gives you some output. So it identifies, and you have given some input also. Earlier, you have given an input. This is the shape, it is having a leaf, and this is the, you can say, color or what, it should be an apple. So machine would say, this is an apple. Because it has the output, it has the input also. So on the basis of that, machine will say, this is an apple. This is how a machine understands. This is how it works. The whole thing works. Now, there are three basic, you can say, standards or the categories on which machine learning works. So three categories are, one is supervised learning, which says train me, means machine is all towards you. It looks towards you, please train me whatever the way you want me to. So here machine has all the data, all the outcomes, so that it can make the prediction. It is same as a teacher is teaching somebody in the class. A teacher is giving all the information, how it is done. If you do this, then this will happen. If you do that, this will happen. That is a complete supervised learning. An example could be sales prediction. Example, you can take same, the air condition. If you want machine to predict, whatever ACs you are producing, suppose you are producing 1 lakh unit, would we able to sell them? So machine would ask you for all the information of the past. What have you done in the recent past and what has been the trends? On the basis of that, machine will say, yes, you would be able to sell, or it would say, no, it would be a high dream. So please drop this idea and please stick to whatever you were producing earlier. Second thing is unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning is basically, it says, I'm self-sufficient in learning. I know how to learn. Just give me the data. So it works in the case where you are doing some categorization. You are making some classes. Like you enter some data of your customers, and on the basis of their ratings, machine can make them into different categories. These are the satisfied ones. These are the non-satisfied ones. These are the guys who still expect something more from you. So on the basis of that, the company can decide their own, you can say, predictions, marketing campaigns, and accordingly they can pitch their customers. Third one is the reinforcement learning. It means my life, my rules, hit and try. So this kind of learning is basically done when we are doing some automatic car driving. Okay, suppose you want to make a car which can drive automatically by itself, then there is no program. There is nothing you can write into. Okay, a car will learn. Okay, when a car will come, suppose in front, you are driving in a lane and a car is there in front of you, then what you should do? Should you put on the brakes? Should you take left or right? And suppose you took left and there is another car, what would you do? So that is a complex case. So in that case, machine learns by itself. So if Google has made a self-driven car, what they have done, they have launched a car which is moving in a traffic, and by bumping into all these cars, it is noting up. Okay, if I turn left, then means there is some other car, I got a bump again. So I shouldn't have taken left. I should have stayed in the same lane. I should have pulled the brake in that case. So that is how it works. So that is considered under reinforced learning. So these three models or these three style of learnings are there for machine learning. And for all these styles, there are algorithms available for each of these learning experiences. One is reinforcement, which works on learning from the mistakes. One is unsupervised, which works for identifying the clusters, identifying the data. Third one is the supervised, where it works in task-driven, or you can say prediction-based learning. So am I making sense as of now, guys? Is there any question you want to ask? Because now we'll be changing gears to something else. A quick yes or something would do. Yes, yes. Thank you, Mohandas. You are, you can say, very quick response from you. I'm getting. So now we will move. We have just discussed what all are could be the learning styles, and there are different models. So we would see how these models rated, how we select a model basically if we are doing something. Suppose you are doing prediction, so what could be the metrics on basis of which we should say this model is selected. How many of you have some background in data science or something? Guys, anybody who's having some experience in data? Can I have something, a response from your side? One question on data structure and segment. They trust they need to be segregated. Can you be more elaborative? Can you unmute yourself so that I can understand what you want to say? Team, can we? Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Yogesh. Yogesh, I think on the data input, we saw the examples of raw data and the example that you showed about apples, right? But we also talked about a lot of segments in which this can be quite widely used in from banking to governments to a variety of engineering industries, right? So question is, I think so though we're talking about the machine learning's ability to segregate the data, I think there should be some restriction on the data segment in which we pump in the data. Let's say example, if you are looking at an automobile industry, if you're talking about doing prediction using the supervised data approach, then if you're trying to get some outcome on a say sedan segment sales in the last 3 years, then the data that you input needs to be on the sedan segment
yes
numbers,
definitely,
right? So
definitely.
That's kind of standardization needs to happen before the data is pumped into ML. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is a fair statement to make. It's same as, like, suppose we ask an analyst to give me an idea about some sedan sales. So he would be able to tell only if he has worked in that segment. If he hasn't worked in that segment, that guy might be a very bright kid, a bright chap, but he would not be the right fit to us because he doesn't know anything about that. Same happens with machine also. If you want to make it some prediction over something, like you want to do some prediction on banking, that machine has to be trained on banking. It's like you are getting some trained employee or a trained resource from you for you. So basically, you need to train your machine learning model on that particular data set. If the machine has learned on that particular data set, only then it can give you some output on that particular instance. If you ask something else on which machine has not been trained, so it would say, I don't know anything. Like if it has been trained on banking, then it could not be a best fit thing for you to use the same model for any, you can say, sedan, car sales, or doing some air conditioned sales. It would not be a fit for that.
I hear you, Yogesh. Thanks.
Yeah.
That was the question.
Okay, thank you. So basically, when we do machine learning, basically we train our models for months. Sometimes time takes years also. Like Google is training its own machine learning model, and it has been since 2017, and still it is going on. They are working on it. Even on the self-driven car, they are making it learn daily, and the project is running from last 10 years or 7 years approximately. So it's all about, okay, you can enter as much data as you can, but you cannot be so sure unless you test it. So the basic thing is evaluation. Yes, you need to understand data. Yes, you need to understand data science and these AI machine learning to design these models. But to analyze them, you just need a basic understanding. As a manager, as a team leader, or as the head of department, you need not to understand the whole, you can say, the concept of machine learning, how the model is working, how we can write the code in Python, how you can say a machine will react to it. If the guy says, okay, sir, understand what is regression, I don't need that. What I need is, okay, I'm a layman, I'm outside there, I'm a manager, I'm a supervisor. I should be able to understand how your model is working, if it is the best fit for my company or not. So for that, there are few metrics which we should understand. So these metrics could be understood by anybody who is into the industry, or he might be just related to the industry, or he might be just supervising the guys who are making these kind of models for you. So you might be on those positions on which you are just taking into account how your team is working. So we'll discuss on those metrics, how by using those metrics, we would be able to get a proper understanding of what our guys has done in their recent time, which has been given to them, or what the model, whatever model they have trained for us, is it the best suited one for us or not? So the basic thing is accuracy. Accuracy for the model is one criteria which is very important for any business. So errors could be there. It's not like if you are making a model, there would not be any error. If you train it for 7 months, then now there would not be an error. Error would be there, and always there would be an error. These errors could be even done by some man also. Even humans who has been doing working in an industry for 20 years or 30 years, they might also take some wrong decisions sometimes. So errors is normal. They will come. But our job is to minimize that thing. Our job is to make that responsibility. If error is there, we should just note it down as soon as possible, and we should change our strategy, or we should retrain our model. So basically, you need to check the accuracy, and how it is checked, we'll see now. So guys, shall we move forward now? A quick yes will do. Okay. So there are three major criteria to evaluate a machine learning model. One is accuracy, another one is precision, and the third one is recall. So accuracy is the accurate predictions for any test result in machine learning. We'll do, you can say, a detailed discussion on these three in the future, you can say, slides. So if you are not getting these terms as of now, so I'll explain all these terms with examples so that you guys can be very much clear with the thing. Precision is defined as the percentage of relevant examples, the true positives. So we'll see what are true positives and what are true negatives in the future slides. So let us move there so that you can get a feel of this basically. So basically, if we understand a machine or what it does, basically they take some data, and on the basis of that data, they give us some output. So suppose there is a case in front of us. Suppose Suppose there is a case in front of us, you want to understand what would be the sales. So let me use this paint for you. Let us suppose you want to say, okay, for the month of July, the sales was 4,000. For the month of August, the sales was 5,000. Don't go with the numbers, just try to understand what I am telling you. Is 5,500. Sorry, we missed September. See, these things happened. So errors are normal, but you need to understand when they are coming. Suppose you have data for 4 months available to you. So these are the actual sales. And this in front of that, that could be the predicted one. So basically what we are doing, what machine does for you, it works on a simple line. Y is something which we say it is, suppose we say Y is equal to A times of X. So this means whatever is the value of X, Y would be A time of this. Is this simple and clear to everybody? Don't see that equation, that could be confusing. Just understand if suppose Y is the predicted sales, and X could be your input cost, A could be your marketing efforts. Just to understand, a sales would be marketing effort into the input cost. So that should be our sales, or whatever it is, this should be our thing. So basically Y is dependent on X. Basically, if input cost change, my sales figure, your sales amount should change accordingly. So this happens here also. What happens basically, this variable, the Y, it is considered as the output variable. So whenever machine predicts this thing, it takes something as input. That input could be your cost which has incurred for preparing your product. That could be including your marketing effort or something like that. So basically machine makes an equation. It is depending on something. That could be any variable, alpha, beta. That is not important. So don't dive into what is alpha, what is beta. Just try to understand that these are some variables. For these values are identified, and whatever value you are getting for YE, that is the estimated value, it is compared with Y, which was the actual value, to understand if the prediction has been done right or not. So suppose this was the sales. So I'll show you there only. Now you can see two things there. One is the blue line, basically that is the actual sales, and red dot is the prediction basically which you have made. So it worked on this formula. Basically X was the input given to this, alpha and beta were the values identified by machine by understanding your whole data. On the basis of that, machine understood that there is something alpha, there is something beta, and by multiplying that I am giving you an output. Y is the output estimated sales. So that has been represented by red dots. You can see here, these are the red dots. So basically what is happening now, you can compare actual sales with prediction. So you can see, oh yeah, this is following almost the same pattern. The graph is having almost the same height, and it is falling on the same pattern. So that means the prediction has been done almost in the similar fashion. So you need not to worry about, you need not to see what has been done. So this could be done if you have the output values with you, isn't it? Like this is the actual value. Suppose you were selling some vanilla model basically, and these were the iterations. The actual value was 24, and your model says the value was 30. Actual value was 21. Your model says 25. So every time you see, if your model says 34, value says 30. So now if you try to make this graph, so you will find your values are somewhere near to this. The graph is going in the similar fashion, but it is not actually the same. So we have to identify that gap. That gap is called error basically, and that we have to minimize. If we can minimize that error, or we can identify that error, then we could say, yes, we are able to understand what machine is doing or what model is doing. If the model is doing exactly the same value of what was the actual one, then we can by a naked eye, we can say, yes, the model is doing perfectly fine. But it doesn't happen normally. If you go to any of these prediction level, there are some differences. There is some error available because it is a sort of guess which a machine is doing for you. So if you can even replace the machine by a human can only guess. He can only say, yes, your sale could be somewhere around that value or that value. Like your analyst could say, yes, sir, this time you could sell approximately 1 lakh ACs. So it doesn't mean that you will sell exactly a 1 lakh. It means that you could be able to sell 90,000. It could be a case that you have sold 1,10,000. So that means there is some gap between actual and the predicted value. The same happens with machine also. So you need to identify the gap and you have to minimize that gap. That is the main game here. So when we go with these models, what we do, we try to understand what all are, how we can calculate that error basically. So there is one method which is called squared error. Squared error is summation of predicted value minus actual value. Whatever was the predictive one. Suppose your vanilla model was saying it was 24 and the final value which you got by your machine, it was 30. So what it will take, 30 minus 24 squared and summation to next value, like 25 minus 26 squared plus 30 minus 34 plus like that. So this is how it will go on. So this is the squared error basically. So that is used. Second thing is mean squared error, basically MSE, which includes the actual value minus the predicted value squared and divided by the whole sample size basically, and is the number of iterations you are having. So here we are considering the sample size. If sample size is huge, then this error will be small. Am I right? So that is how this is the difference. Next are root mean square and absolute error. These are the other two parameters available. One is RMSE, one is absolute error. RMSE also includes that sample size basically, but it includes everything under root basically. It doesn't want that square to be there at output. So predicted value is subtracted from the actual value. It is squared and then it is summed. After that, it is divided by the sample size. More is the sample size, smaller is the error. So basically, more data you feed to your machine, smarter it would become. So if huge data is fed to the machine, then it is assumed that it is getting smarter by the time it is going on. Then it also depends on the data which you are feeding into it. If the data which is fed to a machine is not right, then also your machine, whatever it is learning, it's not good. It's same like a kid is studying since you can say 6th, he is studying some language. Suppose he is studying French in his school, and he reach in 8th class, you try to ask him, yeah, let's communicate in French because your school is teaching you French. And you could find he is not able to communicate properly, even after learning the same language for 3 years. So the reason might be whatever he was learning, that was not relevant, or whatever he was learning, that was not good in terms of he was not able to grab or he was not able to understand. So basically content was the issue. Same could happen here also. Sometimes it's not that if you are giving huge data, then it would guarantee you that your answer will be right. You need to have that segmentation. You need to have that category basically that the data which you are feeding into it is relevant to this. Like if you want to predict the sale for a sedan, basically, so you need to feed the same data for the machine. It's not like I'm feeding 10,000 lines, then machine should be much more smarter than what it was earlier. But those 10,000 lines doesn't belong to the car sales. So if they doesn't belong to the same clan or the same segment, then my machine would not get intelligent, but it would be much more confused. So what it will do, it will give me much more errors. So basically, as you can say supervisor, as a senior, what you have to see, you have to ask for these 4 metrics. There are other metrics also. It's not like there are the end of the road. There are other metrics also. Basically, what we do, we ask for these metrics, we ask for these values, and on the basis of that, we ask, what is the error? If the error is small, then we say our regression model is going fine. So basically how regression works or how machine works, suppose these were the points. These were the, you can say, your inputs given by you. These could be the sales points basically. Okay, suppose in August, sales was this. In September, sales was this. By November, sales was this. So like that, these could be different points for your car. So basically this straight line means that machine tries to identify a pattern. Basically, it tries to make a line for you. Regression analysis, yeah, you can say regression models in machine learning. What they do, if you plot your data on a scatter plot, basically, it tries to pull a line around it. That line could be, the line should be touching as much as data points it can. If we see this point, there could not be any way, there could not be any, you can say, instance on which line could have touched all the data points. Let's try to understand it. Suppose this is the, you can say, data available to you, and you try to say, okay, yeah, we can make some line, or we could join it. Suppose you place a line here and you say, okay, maximum data points are touched. How many points are touched now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The rest are not. If you try to make a line in this way, then only 2 data points are touched. If you try to make a line in this way, okay, just make it straight. So might be you can touch 5. So in any case, you can't touch more than 5. And how many data points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Means out of 14, only 4 or 5 are the data points on which you can say that your model is saying right, or you can concur with that basically. So for rest of the data points, your graph is not saying the same thing. This graph is, suppose there is a line like this, so it is not explaining everything. It can only explain the points which it has covered. So basically what happens, you can't satisfy everybody. You can't make happy everybody. So what you'll do, you'll make a median, you'll make a line, you'll make something. Okay, it would not be same as, it would not be touching everybody, but the distance would be minimum. So what we do, we try to create a line, we try to make a line which has minimum distance between these data points so that everybody can accommodate. It's like if you are having a cab and you want to pick up everybody for your office basically, so you can't take the cab to everybody's home and try to pick them, because that will take a huge time. So the another approach would be, you'll make some stops, you'll make some pickup points. Okay, yeah, please travel to this pickup point. This is easy for you, so that I can go straight and I can save my time. So similarly, when machine try to identify a pattern, what it does, it says, okay, I don't concur with you, but try to agree with me on this point at this particular stage. So that this is the point of ambiguity, or this is the point of difference, or you can say the scope of negotiation with you left. This is the scope of negotiation with this left. So this is how machine makes these scope of negotiations with everybody, with every data point. And on the basis of that negotiation, basically, you get these errors. This is the scope of negotiation. The scope is 6. The scope is 4. Or this is 4 again, 5, or you can say 9 approximately. So these are the scope of, you can say, negotiations. A machine does not need all the points, but it tries to get a, you can say, central way, so that when you calculate these errors, that sum would be minimum. That answer, that value should be minimum. Suppose you are taking actual and predicted values and you are adding them up. So after adding all these differences, you might be having a huge difference here, or you might be having a huge difference here. You can see there is a difference of 11 approximately. It is the maximum in these, you can say, display data points. So it's not that it is concurring with this, but when a central line is placed, or when a central method is, you can say, elicited, this is the central way of my prediction, then if you calculate the error for everybody and you try to get a final MSE by adding up all these errors, that final value would be minimum. So basically, you have to make a line, you have to select a algorithm so that these errors are minimum. So whenever a guy is doing some analysis for you, or your junior is doing some regression and he says, yes, sir, I have done linear regression, or sir, I have done multinomial linear regression, or he says, yes, sir, I have done, you can say XGBoost. So you would say, what are these? I don't understand these terms. So please say something which I can understand. So what you can do, simply ask them, what is the error you are getting? What is the error in linear regression? Just tell me that. So he'll say, okay, sir, for linear regression, RMSE is suppose 2.3. And you'll ask, okay, what is the RMSE for your decision tree? So he'll say, this is 3.4. So you could say, okay, choose RMSE, because that error is smaller here. Because you can say that margin of bargain is smaller there. We are agreeing for most of the points. We are trying to make a line which can be the best fit, and we are not, you can say, making something which is very much suitable to a particular clan. Are you getting what I'm telling, guys? Is this making sense to you? A quick yes will do. Thank you for saying yes. And what about others? Catching up. Oh, thank you. That's great. I'm happy, really happy that you are catching it up. So basically this happens. So what you do, you simply ask them, what is the error? If they say, okay, sir, error is this, error is that. So just ask for these values. Okay, what is the RMSE? What is the absolute error? What is the MSE? What is the SE? So these factors will tell you, okay, if the error is small, that means whatever prediction has been done, it is done in the right way. Now we move forward. So these are the important points. So if this question might come to your mind, okay, which one is the most, you can say, crucial factor? Should we consider RMSE or should we consider MAE? Should we consider standard error? What should be considered? So my answer is never compare apples with oranges. All these terms are different. So never try to compare them. Okay, MSE and MAE, which one should be selected? Simply what you do, take more than one functions, like don't say, okay, only tell me what is absolute error or only tell me what is RMSE. What you can ask him, okay, just give me maximum information from your side. So what he'll do, he'll give you a chart. He'll give you a chart. Chart could be like, chart could be like, he could give you something like this. Okay, sir, RMSE is 2.3. MSE is, don't go with the values. This could be very different from the actual ones. Normally, if these values are like this big, normally values are like this big. Sometimes they are like this big also. So don't go with that value. Simply see what I want to tell you. Don't get fascinated with the numbers only. Suppose these are the three criteria available to you. So now there will be a tabular form in front of you where he will tell that this is for LR. And I did the same thing for decision tree. And for that, RMSE is 9.8, MSE is 34.5, SE is 2.3. So now it's your intelligence. You will see for linear regression, these errors are high and these errors are low. For SC, both are almost same. So I would go with DT, decision tree, instead of linear regression. So that is one way of understanding. That is one way of choosing the best model for you, because the minimum error means lesser bargain. More agreeing means you or your system, your prediction is having less scope for bargaining, less scope of ambiguity, or you can say disagreement with other points. That is how things work. So never compare your data, you can say values among themselves. Like don't compare MAE with MSc, okay, which one is good. Just compare, okay, what are the values for different models. Like what is MSc for all these models available? What is RMSc for all these models available? And if the difference is negligible or marginal, then you can ask for what is the computational expense, which model takes more time to run. Then you can select, okay, this model is taking less time, so now this model is my best suited one. This is how we move forward. So this is the case of overfitting and underfitting, which I was telling you. See, first one is the case which we have done. Basically, we have made a line, or you can say a bargain with everybody. Yeah, you have to travel to this point if you want to get onboarded on the CAP. So similarly, this is my prediction line, and all these guys, all these data points has to bargain, has to get some point of agreement with me, and the point of disagreement would be the distance from my line of prediction. So that is my case. Now, if I calculate my RMSc or something, it would be good. This is the second case where I have tried to accumulate everybody by making this thing. Or third one is I touched almost everybody. I haven't even left anybody. I have picked everybody from their home. So in these three cases, third one is called overfit. First one is called underfit. Underfit because nobody, almost nobody is being picked from their home. Oh, okay, only 2 or 3 are picked from their home. Otherwise, everybody is having huge distance to travel. Suppose these guys have huge distance to travel, so they would say, okay, we won't opt for the CAP. So they would be out of the clan. Basically, all these data points, whatever your prediction would be, they would not contribute to your prediction because they are saying something else and you are saying something else. You could understand this could be a sales line. Okay, like your model is saying okay, in June, the sale would be 10,000 and your model is saying okay, in June, the sale would be 50,000. That is the huge difference. So that is the underfit basically. Underfit is poor performance on the training data. Training means whatever you have given to the machine for learning before actually using it onto the, you can say, market. So you give data in batches. One batch is training batch, which makes the model robust, which makes your machine learning model understand everything. And after that, you put testing data just to test whatever you have done, is it right or not? If you feel that your model is good for both training and testing data, then your model is launched in the market. Third one is the overfit, where you have tried to capture everybody. So that means it is having very good performance on training data, but poor generalization to other data. Okay, suppose you feed another data. This was a training one. Suppose you try to feed another data. So the points would not be here always. They could be anywhere. So for those points, this graph would not be the right one. So basically what would happen, okay, this is an overfit because this is overly, you can say the guys are overwhelmed. They are very much, you can say, pampered now here. So this route is basically for those guys only. If you add some more points, you add some more employees, then this CAP route will not work. So that is overfitting. And this is underfitting. This one is, you can say, the robust one. If somebody is there or somebody is here, then this route will almost suit to them because the difference is small. They have to travel less. So this is something which is the more preferred one. Am I making sense? Guys, a quick yes will do. If you have any doubt, then you can ask me, then we'll move to another segment that is called confusion matrix. We'll understand one more style of, you can say, anybody? Yes, thank you. Thank you for being so responsive. Now, next is confusion matrix. This is one more style of analyzing how your model is working, if it is doing fine or not, if it is good or not. this mostly happens with the cases where you do classification sort of modeling. That these models or these you can say criterias are used for predictive sort of modeling, where you are predicting something, like you are predicting some sales, or you are predicting what could be the newer values of you can say suppose you want to change the cost of your AC for this new season. So what should be your new cost? So these are the predictions basically. So all these methods were for predictive modeling. Now we understand one very good or very unique sort of matrix, which is used for classification sort of algorithms. Classification means, suppose you want to make a classification that a guy is having a COVID or not. You want to make a classification if it is a cat or a dog. You want to make a classification if this guy is risky or this guy is safe if a loan is given to that person. So that is a classification sort of modeling. So in that, confusion matrix comes into play. It is a tabular summary basically of correct and incorrect predictions. So this is the, you can say, matrix basically. Here we have the predicted values. Here we have the actual values, because machine needs both. Na? You have to feed everything. Okay, this is the right thing. You have to feed the output also, only then it will understand. So you are feeding the actual values also, and you are getting the predicted values also. And now on the basis of this matrix, you will understand what are the values. First column is true positive, because it says predicted value is also positive and actually they were also positive. So these are true positives. Am I right? Guys, say yes or no. Are you getting it? Second is false negative. Why it is false negative? Because my prediction says they are negative, but actually they were positive. So they are falsely called as negative, because you are relying on your machine. Nah? You are asking your machine basically. So see, from the machine's perspective, they are falsely lying into negative region. They were actually positive, but machine has said they are false negative. Similarly, actually they were negative, but your machine has termed them positive, so it would be false positive. And last one is true negative, because your machine also says negative and actually also they were negative. So whatever data points you are having, we will try to accumulate them as much as in these two columns. In this one, true positive and true negative. We try, okay, these two columns are almost blank, means no one should lie in these two columns. So this matrix is used to evaluate a model on the basis of accuracy, precision, and recall. Now we'll see what is precision and recall here. See, true positive is the when observation is positive, but it is predicted to be positive. So that means everything is fine. We say true positive. False negative, where observation is positive actually, but my model says it is negative. So falsely they are into negative. So we'll term it as FN. So just remember these abbreviations for the next slide. TPFN. Next is true negative. That is actually they were negative and my model is also saying negative. So it is fine. Last is false positive, means observation is saying negative, means my model is saying negative, but actually they were positive. See, this is how things happen. It is another way of representation basically. So this is precision. Precision means how many of true positives do we have? If suppose there was a classifier for cat and dog and you want to identify, okay, suppose 10 pictures or 20 pictures in front of you, how many of them have been identified correctly by your machine? How many of them has been identified correctly by your system? That comes under precision basically. True positive divided by this value and this value, because all these values has been termed as positive by your system. So true positive is actually positive upon all the positives said by the machine. Similarly, sensitivity is also called as recall. What it says, true positive, positive in terms of the machine. According to the actual scenario, all these values are positive who lies in this column and this column. All these were actually positive. So sensitivity would be true positive divided by all the actual positives. So that is basically a recall. Now last is the F1 score, which we also check. Recall, F1 is basically a harmonic mean of precision and recall. So this is the formula for harmonic mean. So when we do the classification, we check what is the accuracy. Accuracy should be the maximum. Precision should be good. Sensitivity or recall should be good. Specificity should be good. For specificity, you would need not to be very much bothered about, because this is almost depending upon this one. If sensitivity is good, then this will also be good, because it is almost you are getting true positives here and you are getting true negatives here. So we just see precision, sensitivity, and accuracy. Let us see with an example now. This is the classifier for cat and dog. Suppose you gave your machine 20 pictures and you ask it just classify them whether they are cat or whether they are dog. So what your machine did, it did some analysis by itself. How it did some analysis? You have fed the data. Your model has been trained by data. You are feeding your machine lot of pictures of cat and lots of pictures of dogs. Since last 2-3 months, you are adding the pictures. Suppose you have entered 200 pictures for cat and 200 pictures of dog. So your model would not be very accurate. But if you have entered 10,000 pictures of cat and 10,000 pictures of dog, then your model would be somewhat more intelligent, somewhat more accurate. But this does not mean if you enter some pictures of bird also, then it would do the prediction in the same manner, because bird was not in the question. So for a machine, bird would be something confusing. It would get confused. What is the third category? So now the same case comes. Not only the huge amount of data works, the relevant data also is needed. So basically what has been done here, you can see that 6 pictures has been identified as cat. So they are true positive, means the machine has identified 6 pictures correctly. 1 picture machine said is a dog, because if you see this positive and negative, positive means that you are identifying cat. If this is cat, then by default this is dog. So if you say that this is cat, then by default this is dog. So if the machine says that this picture does not belong to a cat, that means this belongs to a dog. So falsely it has been lying into dog section, but actually it was cat. Actually all these 7 pictures were for cat, but your model did some analysis, and on the basis of its own analysis, it placed 6 pictures correctly, but 1 was placed by incorrect, or you can say due to the lack of data, or you can say the inaccuracy has happened here. Second case is for the dog. All these 13 pictures were for dogs, but your machine identified 11 pictures correctly, but 2 pictures was identified as wrong. So basically they are false positive and they are true negative. So if you try to identify the precision now, precision would be 6 divided by 6 plus 2. True positive upon true positive plus false positive. False positive is this. So 6 upon 6 plus 2 is your precision. For recall, it would be 6 upon 6 plus 1. Means 6 by 7 is your recall and 6 by 8 is your precision. And accuracy would be true positive plus true negative divided by everything. True positive plus true negative divided by everything. So it would be 17 divided by 20 would be your accuracy. So as a manager, as a senior, or as a supervisor, you need not to understand how your developer or how your data scientist has worked and what he has calculated. You simply ask for the confusion matrix. You just show me the confusion matrix and let me see what you have done, what your model has done. If the model has done something in very right manner, then you can find it here only. that this confusion matrix would give you an idea how actual prediction has been done. These two columns should have been empty. If these columns are empty, then your model is doing it right 100%. If there are some values, then there would be some values. You need not to bother about that. There would be some values. Like I have already said, anybody could make some error. Anybody could make those mistakes, but those mistakes should be very minimum. Like if somebody is working in a company, then you can skip 1 or 2 mistakes if a guy is making, but you can't be you can't be a guy who is making mistakes daily, because if he is doing something wrong daily, that means he is costing your business. So that guy should be shelved. That is the normal scenario. But if a guy is good, he is doing a fine job, and by somehow due to some bad day or some bad luck, he made some wrong decision or he did something wrong, then we can skip that. We just say, okay, just take rest. Something wrong has happened. You just need to relax now and just focus on your work. So similarly happen with machine also. If the errors are small, if these values, false negative and false positives, are small, basically, so you can ask your machine to relax. Okay, nothing to worry about. We'll figure it out and we'll try to solve it. So we can accept the model basically. So this is how you accept your model. Now there could be another case also. This was the case for cat. There could be case for anything. Suppose this positive could be COVID positive and this could be COVID negative. There could be a case in front of you, like some guys, 1 or 2 guys of your company has gone to some country, maybe Germany, and now they have returned, and you found out that there is some virus going on. So your company thought that everybody should be tested now, because it has been 8 days and all guys are mixing up, eating together, having lunch and everything. So we should go for a test for everybody and let's see what happens. So in that case, what would happen if your prediction actually how many of them were ill will be given, counted here, and the test result would be counted here. If that result says 6 are truly having the problem, means 6 are having COVID. So basically they were actually having COVID and 6 were identified as having COVID. So 6 is right. But your test result said the one guy is safe, but actually he was having COVID. So that is an error. That is type 2 error. That is a problem for me, because now that guy could roam freely because his test says negative. So he could be, you can say he's roaming freely. So he could be a potential, you can say, carrier for the same virus, and my other guys could also be infected. So that is basically a type 2 error. So that error should not be there. So if this number was high, suppose true positive was 1 and false negative was 6, then this problem would have been much more worse. Now this problem is worse, but not that worse, which would have been in a case if these two numbers were interchanged. So this is how we try to get everybody in these two columns. Either they should come in true positive or they should come in true negative. Because they are actually negative, that is where they are coming in true negative. They are actually positive, that is where they are coming in true positive. So your maximum data should lie in these two columns in your confusion matrix. That is the key basically. So am I making sense, guys? Any doubt till now?
So far, yes, thank you. Just one point on the previous slide. Could you debrief a bit more on the sensitivity and specificity that you mentioned? What is the inference that we need to take away from these two values?
Okay. Basically, sensitivity tells you about the true positive. The recall says about the true positives. Okay, what is the true positive rate in your system? And specificity says the true negative basically. It's all about your understanding, means what you were expecting. Suppose you were going for a COVID test for the whole company, then you have some hypothesis in your mind, like my guys could be COVID infected. So for you, anything could be positive and anything could be negative. So it's not that every time positive means in COVID positive. It depends on your scenario. Means if you say, yeah, I want everybody should be safe. I want everybody should be safe. So your case would be Positive means no COVID. For you, positive could be no COVID. So you want everybody should be in the no COVID zone. So these sensitivity basically says true positive means if somebody is having some problem, if somebody is having any issue, means if this is the information, recall should be high. If recall is high, recall would be high if this number is high. See the case. Recall is true positive upon true positive plus false negative. Means this upon this two. So recall is high means okay, maximum guy should lie here. Like what has happened in COVID, our government said here nobody should be skipped. No matter he is having small symptoms or not, if he is showing any symptom, he should be here. We can quarantine somebody no matter he is having COVID or not, but we can't skip anybody and we can't allow anybody to roam. Am I getting, are you getting my point?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
So basically,
yeah.
So that is recall. So it depends on situation. Sometimes you want recall should be very high because you want it, because you can't afford anybody roaming outside. You can afford everybody sitting in a quarantine position, but you can't allow anybody to roam who is having COVID. Now take the second case. Suppose you are having some alarm in your car. Your car is having an alarm basically, which usually rings when somebody touches your car. Okay. In that case, the positive case would be somebody has touched your car and your car is ringing. So if you try to make it more sensitive, what would happen if some another car is going just adjacent to your car and it is very speeding, then your alarm could ring and you could get a false message that somebody has touched my car or somebody is trying to make theft out there. So you might be disturbed and you can stop everything. You might be sleeping, you might be working, you just rush to your car and see everything is fine. So what you do, I just reduce the sensitivity because this is Diwali time. Normally guys burst crackers and all, so I should reduce the sensitivity. So what would happen? More, if somebody is touching the car, there are chances that now alarm will not ring. Am I right? Because sensitivity has been reduced. So it depends on you what is your criteria. When COVID restrictions are high, when cases are very much you can say in a country, then we want recall should be high. Otherwise, we want our precision should be high. So this depends on the situations also. It's not always you want both the things should be high. But F1 score is something which is having a balance of these two. It says that both should be high. By whatever level you could have it. So this is how we get a classification report in Python when we work. So we see the precision is good, it is 91. Recall is also good, it is 91. F1 score is also good, it is 93. So yes, I could go with this model. It is having everything is very good. So I can go with that. Suppose you want to make recall as 100. If you try to make recall as 100, then your precision will be reduced. This is the simple thing. If you try to make your precision as 100, then your recall will be reduced. Because either you will make your car very sensitive or you will make your car least sensitive. So either it will ring even a bird is sitting on it, or either it will not ring even if a guy is lying on your car or leaning on your car just to take a selfie, because you have reduced the sensitivity. So after a certain point, there comes a trade-off. If you want to increase your recall to 100, you cannot do that without compromising the precision. So basically in a model, whenever you are working, you can make them, you can get the decent values of these, but after tweaking to a certain level, you can't go beyond that. So never expect my precision should be 100, my recall should be 100, and my F1 score should be 1. This never happens. But try to get them, they should be above 90 approximately. If they are above 90, that means whatever they are doing, fine. Sometimes there could be a case where your precision is only 80. It is only 80, or it is sometimes it's only 75. But then also you need to accept it because you can't do anything. You can't do anything because if you try to change recall here, if you try to increase your precision, your recall is low, is being lost. So what you have to do, if you want to improve the accuracy, the simple thing is add more data. Add more relevant data. If you can add more relevant data, then only you can say, yes, now I can do something. Now I can expect something can be done. Otherwise, after basic tweaking, only a small changes could be done, but you can't do wonders. You can't do wonders. If your numbers are low, that means your data was having some problem. Try to feed some more data so that your machine gets something more relevant this time, and it gets much more intelligent this time. And you could get something very good. Second thing is feature engineering. Feature engineering is basically extracting the information and giving it to the machine. Your machine might be, there is a case the machine was not able to identify some patterns which were on second or third level. So let me put them in a straightforward manner so that now machine could make some relationships. So this is the second thing which we can do. Otherwise, there is nothing you can do on any of these models. Sometimes your machine learning models could give you an accuracy of 65 or 70%. So that is basically due to the two reasons. One, data was small. Second, data was not very relevant. So these two things could happen to you. Now I'm open to doubts. If you have anything, so I'm there. Guys, was the session, you got the gist, what I wanted to explain to you guys? You guys can unmute. I'm open to questions. You can ask me or you can ask from my panelists also. If you want to have some query, so we all are here.
Yes, participants, have you learned something? Can I get quick yes or no? Yogesh also requesting. Can
Yeah.
we get
I think it was very crisp. I think it was to the point and gives us a perspective of what we wanted to take away from it. I think I know this is a first step of many, but yeah,
Yes,
good
sir,
session
yes.
to start.
Yeah, from the beginning and at the end, I'm very much happy to see your what is that learning interest. Very good, sir. So you have you completed any course on AML or data science, sir?
No, Sumi, I'm just catching up with some knowledge sharing sessions like this. So
Okay.
I'm trying to do something the next 6 to 10 months.
So which technology you are interested, sir? AML or data science?
No, I think I'm more looking for a combination of both because there are immense scope within the area division where I'm part of. So we're trying to put some of this into good practice so that we could get reap some good benefits out of the implementation. So
very good
yeah,
to know, sir. Very good to know, sir. These two technologies are now ruling the world, actually. So I think if you are really interested, think about the course. We are doing the complete course. That is master in data science and as well as AML courses there. So look into that. Our person, Mr. Praveen, will communicate you shortly. Think about that because never delay to learn any of the technology. That's my suggestion. Because when the boom is there, we have to skill ourselves and we can upgrade ourselves.
Sumi, I think
yes.
Prashant and Mohandas have raised hands.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, we missed on that. Prashant, you can unmute and you can speak if you want to. It's like an open session now.
Sir, there is a question from Ram. Would you like to answer?
Yes.
It is in the chat box, sir.
I have 26 years of experience. Will this new learning work for me? Yes, definitely it will work for you because you will be on, you can say, height on your pyramid in your job, in your work division. So if you are there and you know about the latest technology, because you are now in a position where you actually have to take decisions. Now you are not following orders, but you are making some strategies. You are giving some orders. So if you have this idea, because it's just like having a friend in front of you, besides you. Data is like your friend. Data helps you to get the insights, get the actual, you can say, sometimes it happens to you. Okay, you are planning to buy a new car and you go to the showroom and you feel that this car is good. you know you are competent enough to take the decision, but you look into the eyes of your wife, what she is saying, or you might look at your child if he is excited or not, or you even might try to see in the eyes of the sales guy if he's so confident that yes, this car is good, because everybody wants a second opinion. Everybody wants that kind of you can say reinforcement. Okay, whatever I am saying or whatever I am choosing, it is the right thing. So if you have this much of experience, then you should always have a friend in besides you. The data could be your friend, and on the basis of data, you can get much more, you can say, solid and robust decision making, and your decision would be much more data driven, which is the need of our at this time. So it is much more relevant to the guys who are on the top pyramids as compared to the guys who are there on, you can say, the starting levels or the functional levels they are working. So it is relevant for everybody, but the significance is different. What you need and what they need. So I think I have tried to answer your question. So I think you are satisfied, or is there anything you want to ask, Mr. Ram? I know a lot of guys who are near to your age experience, and they have just jumped into this new data science field, and they are learning these new technologies, because upgradation is something which we have to do. We can never say that we are from that generation who hasn't seen the things, because you have seen the time when internet was not there, and you have worked, and now you have learned how to use email and how to use chat and how to use Zoom. So you need to upgrade because you need to stay in the market. You can never say that I have spent so many years, so would it be relevant to me? Because this is the fashion, this is the new flavor of the month, so you need to have a taste of it. So I think it is a thing you should really try. Thank you. Prashant, you can unmute and you can ask your question because you have raised your hand since long. Yes, Prashant. Guys.
Hello.
Yep.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yep. Actually, my question is, I am from a science background. I mean, MSc in biotechnology.
That's
I would
great.
like to know, would I be able to cope up with this data science, because I don't have any prior knowledge about this course.
Okay, I just want to ask you one thing. You have attended the session. Yep. Did you get what I was trying to make you understand?
Yes.
Okay. At any point, did you feel that, yeah, this is not relevant to my field, or I am not relating myself into the situation?
I did not feel anything like that, but the only thing is during the course, I mean, once I start doing the course, that is the only question raising in my mind right now. Will I be able to cope up with that or not?
I have already answered. If you are well versed, if you enjoyed, if you got the gist, what I was trying to tell you, actually it is a very technical thing, which I explained to you guys. So the whole course is like that only. It's not very technical in terms of understanding. It's all about your IQ. It's all about your understanding. So if you have a decent understanding of the things, then you can do it. It's not very difficult to do. You are not, it's like learning a new thing. It's not very difficult. You can do it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Praveen, I think you can take over.
Yogesh, Sumi and all, I think great session. Thank you all. We'll connect soon.
Yes, sir. Please connect our. There is Praveen is here. He wants to address something. He is our course counselor. So can you wait for 2 minutes so that you can get the details, and then you can.
Absolutely, no problem.
Yeah.
Praveen, are you there?
Yes, dear participants, Kirtana, Vidya, Ashok, do you have any other queries? By the meantime, we give last few minutes for you. Please, how was the session? We couldn't get the feedback from you guys. Can you please? Ashok, Kirtana, Vidya, how was the session? Was it useful? Did you learn anything from this session?
Is the screen visible now, Sumi?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, so dear participants, thank you for attending this session, the DigiBytes, which is brought to you by Skill Technica. We are coming up with Masters in Data Science with Python, which comes both weekend as well as the weekdays program. So which is for working professionals, software professionals, IT job seekers, and any graduates from any of the engineering background. You need not have to have too much into the programming skills. We will start from the basics. So this is about a 4 months training program, which will start from the basics and then take you through the entire session. It covers the entire gamut of the data science, into all key subjects, which will make you hands-on and will also be providing you with the enough training and the hands-on practice sessions so that you could add the programs, you could add the respective knowledge in your own domain. You can find a problem and solve the problems, address the problems in your own domains. So these are all the various contents. And we have provided you the number just in case you are interested. You could always reach to us in 7797949494 or write to us at connect@skilltechnica.com. We'll reach you and then we'll hand over you to take you further. If you have any of the questions, then please feel free to address it. So I hope the session was interesting to you.
Praveen, yeah, it indeed was. Thank you. I'm sure you will shoot across this one slider across to us as well.
Yes. We will be sending it to you with all the details and everything. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Yogesh. Thanks for the wonderful session. And so we are ending this session right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you.